Yahoo Sports Fantasy Football Live is presented by Ram Trucks.
Welcome to Fantasy Football Live. It's week 10, people. I don't even remember the other 9 weeks. Where does the time go? We are back in the Yahoo Sports virtual studio to help you get set for the rest of this week's action. I'm Andy Behrens, here in the Midwest where it is snowing. I am joined by reception hipster Matt Harmon on the road in Virginia Beach today. And of course, our daily fantasy expert and Stanford apologist, Tank Williams. He's live in San Francisco. Folks, we have a game going on across the Atlantic. It's in Munich. Right now, the Bucks have a 2-score lead. Tom Brady's got a couple of touchdown passes. Geno Smith has one. Leonard Fournette has rushed for a touchdown, but also picked up a hip injury in this one. The Bucks ran perhaps the stupidest play we've ever seen. What stands out from this game to you guys? Tank, we'll start with you.
Well, first off, let me say, Julio! We don't get to say it too often the past couple of years, so whenever Julio Jones is healthy enough to actually step on the field and contribute to your fantasy team, if you have him in the starting lineup, definitely pat yourself on the back. But more importantly, like you did say, we saw one of the dumbest plays in NFL history, and the way I look at it is this. It's ironic that Tom Brady is the GOAT. He's one of the greatest players to ever play. But then you look at a play like that, and he looks like one of the most unathletic guys to ever step between those white lines. That will always be perplexing to me, but hey, he's been balling out. Chris Godwin got involved. Julio Jones got involved. Tampa Bay Buccaneers are bouncing back.
Harmon, I can't wait to get a reception perception profile on Tom Brady after he ran a couple routes today.
I mean, you're about the 35th person that's asked me for the Tom Brady reception perception chart. So we'll get in the lab, we'll get working on that. But yeah, it is absolutely incredible. It's like you throw this guy one pass and he just looks like, I think somebody called it a young baby giraffe or something like that. That's what he looks like as an athlete. But on a serious note, on number one, I do want to pat myself on the back. Thanks, Tank. Appreciate that, because I did have to start Julio Jones in a injury-destroyed dynasty league where I'm also tilting the Josh Allen decision. But lastly, Andy, shout out to us. I mean, we talk about Rachaad White every week on the Waiver Podcast as a stash that you need to have on your bench. And with this hip injury with Leonard Fournette, like, we might be back to talking, like, we can't even talk about Rachaad White anymore because he'd be so highly rostered by the end of this.
Yeah, it does look that way. Again, Leonard Fournette checking out with a hip injury. Rachaad White has been rolling, and Rachaad White had actually been splitting snaps with Fournette prior to the injury, so we shall see. We will keep you updated, of course, on that game throughout the show. But more importantly, there are still decisions to make for the rest of these games. And let's take a look at some key injuries we're following this morning. This first one, I don't even know what to tell you about this. Josh Allen officially active this morning at home against the Vikings. He did not practice this week with the elbow injury. Also did not come out for warm-ups early in the game. We're still a little bit unclear about who is starting this one for the Bills. No pressure. It's just Josh Allen, that's all. Matthew Stafford is still questionable for today's matchup with Arizona with a concussion. He could still clear protocols ahead of this afternoon's game, but John Wolford has reportedly been preparing as the team's #1 this week. In that same game, Kyler Murray is expected to sit with a hamstring injury. Per NFL Network's Ian Rappaport, the Cardinals are calling him a game-time decision. Colt McCoy is in line for the start in that one. Also in the late set of games, Ezekiel Elliott, still questionable with a knee injury, and he could be held out once they take a look at that injury pregame. All right, as always, plenty of ways to reach us this morning. You can send your questions on Twitter using the hashtag AskFFL or toss a question in the chat. We'll answer as many as we possibly can. Plus, our own Scott Pianowski is answering questions all morning long live on Twitter.
It's time to turn to the flex position and our Built to Serve picks brought to you by Ram Trucks. They're redefining what a truck can be and do every day with plenty of power, capability, and durability each week. We're picking players that align with these quality traits that can lead your fantasy lineup into a winning position. Tank, get us started with a capable wide receiver here.
Yeah, with my capability pick, I'm starting off with Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Now, this is a guy that's shown that he's more than capable in that Kansas City Chiefs offense. He's had games where he's had 8 targets, 6 receptions, 90 yards, 4 targets, 3 receptions, 111 yards. He's going against the Jacksonville defense where they give up the 11th most wide receiver fantasy points. There's no Mecole Hardman today, so that means that there should be more targets, but at the same time, this guy can disappear. So even though he's capable, you have to understand that doesn't always mean that he's reliable. But I think this is a good situation where with Mecole Hardman out, you may want to go ahead and slide MVS in your lineup and hopefully participate in some upside this week.
Yeah, I think I had MVS in this segment last week, and he capably dusted me. So good luck to you, Tank, on that journey. My guy here, and again, durability. It seems like there's no lock for durability this week. We have at least like 35 injury questions we're dealing with. What a nightmare of a slate. But if Ezekiel Elliott does miss the game against the Green Bay Packers, and even if he doesn't, honestly, I think Tony Pollard makes for a pretty awesome flex play, maybe even like a low to mid RB2. Again, just if Zeke plays, but if Zeke is out, we know that Pollard goes to the moon, man. You know, Green Bay right now, 29th in rushing success rate allowed. They're 10th in terms of drop back success rate allowed. So they're one of these funnel defenses that we always talk about where not that great stop in the run, but they do have a capable pass defense. You know, Tony Pollard, the Dallas Cowboys coaching staff, they want to keep him limited, right, to about 30 snaps or something per game. We've seen, even when Zeke was out against the Chicago Bears, like Tony Pollard didn't need a full workhorse role to go crazy. He absolutely went crazy in that game against the Bears. I think he has top 5 running back upside on this slate. Again, with or without Zeke, because of that big playability. He's a guy with the durability in his back pocket. I'm locking him into lineups anywhere. Tank, hit us with your next pick.
Yeah, so with the power pick, when I think about power, I think about the Steel City. And this is a little bit of an unconventional pick, but I'm going with the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. Guess who's returning this week? That dude, TJ Watt. Now, it doesn't help that Mingus Fitzpatrick is going to be out for a few weeks because he had an appendectomy, but TJ Watt is back. And guess who's coming to town? Andy Dalton, our favorite ginger fist. And if the Pittsburgh Steelers somehow kind of embarrass him and shame him and you get him out the game, guess who they roll into the game next? Jameis Winston. So with TJ Watt's return, he's a game breaker, a game player. I feel like there's no way that this Pittsburgh Steelers defense doesn't come out on fire today. And they have the perfect matchup with a bunch of quarterbacks that like to turn the ball over. So if you want some power in your lineup, sliding in somebody in the flex on the defensive position, Pittsburgh Steelers may not be a bad choice with TJ Watt returning.
Kind of cruel for the Steelers to roll out TJ Watt in this one against Andy Dalton. Hasn't he suffered enough at the hand of the Steelers? But anyways, get those guys in your rosters and be sure to check out the entire game-changing Ram lineup at ram.com.
All right, we are very pleased to be joined this morning by perhaps the hot takiest analyst in the fantasy game. It's our very own Dalton Del Don. Today, we're talking midseason awards. These are fake awards, by the way. Just to be clear, nobody's receiving any actual trophies today. Dalton, get us started with the biggest surprise of the season today.
Got to be Geno Smith entering week 10. So entering today, he leads the NFL in completion percentage, 6th in yards per attempt, 3rd in passer rating, most importantly, a top 10 fantasy QB. Geno's averaged more fantasy points this season than Justin Herbert, Tom Brady, Dak Prescott, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, among many others. And not just for fantasy, Geno belongs in the MVP conversation. He's not going to win, but he sports a top 3 passer rating in the highest degree of difficulty throws, including under pressure. He's just been fantastic, willing to wear a wristband, unlike Russell Wilson. Geno went undrafted in most fantasy leagues. A complete afterthought, a journeyman who already has a career high in touchdown passes in 9 games this season, so he must be considered fantasy's biggest surprise this year.
Yeah, it's a great call, no question about it. He's actually bringing the Seahawks back right now. Another touchdown pass today. That's 2. We've got several disappointments that you can choose from if you're selecting your biggest disappointment of the year. But I do think that there's one gentleman from Pittsburgh who has emerged above the rest.
Well, special mention to my guy Kyle Pitts, who somehow hasn't been a top 15 fantasy tight end despite it being an ugly, ugly position. But yes, you're talking about Najee Harris. who is a consensus first-round fantasy pick. He has not been a top 30 fantasy back in half-point PPR, sandwiched in between Kenyon Drake and Jeff Wilson Jr. on the ranks right now. Rookie Jaylen Warren has almost 100 fewer touches, but more 10-yard gains from scrimmage this season. Najee suffered an injury in the preseason and played the first 5 games with a steel plate in his foot, which helps explain his ugly 3.3 yards per carry mark. And it's certainly not all his fault. Pittsburgh's quarterback situation has remained a real issue. The Steelers are actually getting the fewest yards per play on offense this season. But Harris was boosted by volume during his rookie year, and he's dangerously close to heading down the same career path as Trent Richardson.
Oh, man, I can't believe you dropped a Trent Richardson comp on him. That's brutal. 3.6 yards per touch so far on the season, though, for Najee. That's not good. All right, give me somebody who in the second half of the season here, as we get into the most important weeks on the fantasy calendar, can perhaps be that MVP who leads people to titles.
Well, I have 2 for you, Andy. My first is Travis Etienne. Since taking over his lead back in Week 6, he leads the NFL in rushing yards. He's averaging more than 125 yards from scrimmage over his last 5 games, and he absolutely has more upside as a receiver moving forward. Trevor Lawrence has struggled mightily in the red zone this season, and Jacksonville has started to hide him there. Etienne has 10 carries inside the 10 over the last 3 games. He's top 5 in yards per touch and is set up to see a lot more volume over the second half with James Robinson gone. And my second guy, Andy, you're going to be happy to hear, is another possible fantasy league winner moving forward is your guy, Justin Fields. The artwork behind me is Trey Lance. Could have easily been Fields. That's whom I wanted my 49ers to draft, but I digress. Fields has scored the most fantasy points over the last 4 weeks of any player when he leads all quarterbacks in designed runs. He just ran for the most yards of the position ever in a regular season game last week, suddenly on pace to finish with more than 1,100 rushing yards. Chase Claypool is a nice addition who should make a real impact over the second half. And to put it simply, Fields just looks legit. To top it off, he gets a matchup indoors against the Lions in the Fantasy Super Bowl, so he could be your fantasy league winner. And I'm jealous, Andy.
Oh, that is why you love Dalton Del Don, people. I love to hear it. Yeah, Fields playing out of his mind right now. Thank you, Dalton. Please follow him on Twitter at Dalton Del Don, because that platform is definitely sticking around. Read him every week at Yahoo Fantasy.
All right, we're gonna do our prop segment here, but we're gonna call for an update here from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Seattle Seahawks game. Let's check the score here real quick from Germany. Ooh, the Seahawks are coming back here. A couple of passing touchdowns for Geno Smith. Are things gonna get a little weird in Germany? They just might. We'll see what happens the rest of this game. Hopefully no more Tom Brady targets. Let's just make sure we don't get any of those. All right, and with that, people, it's time for Bring the Props. You know the drill. We each discuss a favorite NFL prop bet and then decide if we like the over or the under. My last few weeks have been a lesson in exercise in humility. I'm letting Tank Williams catch up to me. How embarrassing is that? Tank, because I'm such a good guy, because I'm so generous, I'm going to let you start here today, Tank. Why don't you get us rolling?
Well, because you're such a good guy and you're so generous, and because I love you so much, I picked the player that you just adore, and that's Joshua Palmer over 4.5 receptions. I mean, because I've heard you talk about him on social media. I know that he's a stud athlete. I know whenever you grade him out on your reception perception, that he's off the charts. And so now this is a guy who's had 22 targets, 17 receptions, 163 yards in the last 2 weeks. He's probably going to be playing with a negative game script against those San Francisco 49ers. So tell me, are you willing to fade me, Joshua Palmer, over 4.5 receptions this week?
I am not. Despite my opinions about the player, this little short dink and dunk Chargers offense, running so much stick, speed outs, little tiny hitches. Josh Palmer can rack up at least 5 catches on those, especially without obviously Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. So no, Tank, I'm with you. I'm taking the over on this. Andy, are we going to make it a sweep?
Yeah, I'm taking the over as well. Palmer last week, kind of a catch and fall guy, right? Didn't do a whole lot after the catch, but still. He's going to get peppered with targets. He's seen double-digit targets in each of his last 2 games, so I got to go over here.
All right, well, I'll talk about an actual really talented young wide receiver that I still feel like people don't really understand how good Chris Olave is at the game right now. This guy runs routes like a 10-year pro. Just finished his reception perception sample. Now that's an all green route tree, Tank. Okay, this guy gets open at all 3 levels, does everything you want him to do. Again, 10-year pro. He's so technically advanced for a rookie wide receiver, and the Saints know it too. He hasn't gone under 26% targets per route run since week 1. With all these injuries, yeah, that's part of it, but it's just how good Chris Olave is. And I know that he hasn't had that explosive game of late, but the Steelers are one of 5 teams that have allowed 70-plus explosive plays on the year, most of that coming through the air. So I'm taking the over on the 62.5 receiving yards for Chris Olave. Tank, are we on the same side on this one?
You know, this is like tough for me because I just talked about the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, TJ Watt coming back, but I also mentioned that Minkah Fitzpatrick is going to be out of that one, and that's one guy who likes to, you know, prevent those deep passes, even though it didn't really help with Gabe Davis. But then also he's on my fantasy lineup. And so can I really go against this dude when I really need him to score for me this week? I think not. I like to hate on my man Harmon, but in this situation I have to have self-preservation, so I'm going over.
See, we're not necessarily gambling betting experts here, but we do know how to have you bargain with things. Like, that's what this is all about, right, Andy? It's like,
right?
Well, this, but also this, but he's on my fantasy team. That's what we're really going to help you with. But Andy, can we make it a sweep with this one as well?
Yeah, listen, I would love to separate myself from you guys in this contest, but I have a recklessly aggressive forecast for Chris Olave coming up later in the show. I think he goes way over this total. It is an extremely friendly matchup against Pittsburgh. No team has been more generous to opposing wide receivers than the Steelers. I think Olave is in for a huge day, triple-digit yardage for sure.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Andy, I'm on the road here in Virginia Beach. My mom and my sister are both downstairs. They both have Chris Olave on their fantasy team. So if he doesn't go over this number, I'm going to be in a lot of trouble anyway. So I might as well just make it a clean sweep for Payne. Andy, give us your last prop here.
I am running it back with Justin Fields, and I'm taking the over on his rushing yardage at 57 and a half. 57 and a half?
It's a lot.
He just went over this by 120 yards. He has 408 rushing yards in his last 4 games. It's been a while since he's been under this total. Basically, we're getting a half dozen designed runs for Fields each week. He's taken off another 6-8 times each. Like, he's going to finish this season. You heard Dalton. He's going to finish this season over 1,100 rushing yards. That's the pace he's on right now. I think he clears 60 easy. He might do it in the first half.
Man, well, if I have to talk about this guy, like the tear that he's been on like the past few weeks, dog. I mean, we've been talking about Kenneth Walker being like the offensive rookie of the year. Like, this guy's like pushing in just a damn 3-game stretch. It's unbelievable what he's been able to do on the field in this short amount of time. So I think that being said, and looking at the numbers that he's just compiled recently, it's hard for me to fade this dude. I got to go with the over too.
I mean, strategically, talk about the bargaining. Like, there's really doesn't make any sense for me to go under on this one. And like, what would the line have to be for us to take the under on Justin Field rushing yards at this point? Would it be 60? Would it be in the 60s, the 70s? I don't know. I will go over and make it a full weekly sweep here, which brings us to the standings here entering Week 10. Tank. Oh my God, unbelievable. Tank with the sweep
Justin Fields a
last week.
I just
Tank
noticed
with
that.
the sweep
But I'm in first place, so go figure.
I mean, first place, we're all even here. Just because you're all over there, that doesn't matter. Your name is not highlighted.
Hey, whose box is in front?
I've been a point. Yeah.
They put my box in front, which means that I'm in first place. And if you're not first, you're last. If you're not first, you're last.
Your name is not highlighted in yellow, okay? That's what matters. When that was previously my spot, I'm gonna get it back up there. But again, we're all even at this point. We're all even.
That is pretty harsh, moving Harmon to the far right. Oh man. Okay, we need to regroup. You do kind of love to see it. It is time for our first break on Fantasy Football Live. When we return, the banged up Chargers head to the Bay Area on Sunday night. Will it be a fantasy feast? We'll break it down next.
You want your sports news in more than just a few characters? With the help of a bunch of different characters?
You play better than me, I respect this shit like you.
He beat us, yes. I'm not a ball player. Prince had hops.
Hosted by everyone's favorite character.
Only time will tell if that's a lie or a big-ass lie.
You're Calais Campbell's brother, so Calais got the most sex that he has is on me.
Give us 2 minutes and we'll give you The Rush. Weekday mornings on Yahoo Sports.
Welcome to Mad Bets, everyone. I am Minty Beth alongside Jared Quay, Pam Maldonado. I'm Ariel Epstein.
We've got a big Sunday night football game.
It's time for some Monday night football. Jared, let's kick things off with you. What's your best bet this week?
Oh, I love my bet with 5-star confidence.
Ariel, you can call it a homer pick if you want. It's not.
By the way, that probably will be in Prop Queen coming up on Sunday.
I'm gonna be busting these babies out this weekend.
Woo! You did that with your winning bets, huh? You've been on fire. That's what you buying with your winnings?
Oh man, I love it.
All right, we are back here on Fantasy Football Live. Let's get a quick check on that Germany game. And in fact, it's already gone final. The Bucs are winners, 21-16. They're a first-place team right now. Tom Brady, a couple of touchdown passes in this one. Geno Smith, a couple of touchdown passes. Leonard Fournette has a touchdown and an interception and a hip injury. So that's a lot going on. But the Bucs, again, a winner in this one. They're coming home as a first-place club. All right, we got a couple of fantasy-rich offenses meeting up in primetime tonight as the Niners host the Chargers. A lot of injuries, kind of shaking things up in this one. The total for this game, 45.5. It's come down a point or two since it opened. Let's see, Christian McCaffrey gets a defense that has allowed 6 different running backs to top 100 scrimmage yards. He's going to blow up in this thing. The Chargers defense allowing 5.7 yards per carry. That is ridiculous. So obviously, we like CMC. Matt, who else do we like in this one?
Yeah, you mentioned we have injury questions shaking this thing up. Shock with these two teams. These are the two most injury snake-bitten teams of the last, decade, last 5 years, something like that. I mean, we'll see who even makes it out of this game. But yeah, on the San Francisco 49ers side, I'm certainly going to stick on that offense because if we're talking about offensive intrigue, there's much more in San Francisco than whatever the hell is going on in LA at this point with that wide receiver core and what they're doing with the structure of that. Like I mentioned earlier, just so many stick. Enough already with the stick with LA. But the San Francisco 49ers, man, I mean, I pretty much like everybody. I think this is going to be interesting to see who kind of takes over a featured role. Like, where does everybody slide in? Like, what is Deebo Samuel's role going to look like now that Christian McCaffrey is fully integrated? We haven't really seen those two guys both be at their peaks for this team, healthy and, again, fully integrated for CMC. We haven't seen that yet for this team. I think that will be really interesting. But really, if you've got a San Francisco 49ers player, if it's CMC, it's Deebo, it's Kittle, it's Brandon Ayuk, those guys are all studs. They're all in great positions in this offense right now. And this defense for LA has totally fallen apart despite the big investment they made on that side. A lot of questions there. So pretty much any 49ers player I like going into this one.
Yeah, you really hit the point that I'm probably most interested in here, which is what exactly it looks like with both McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel. Deebo off the injury report, right? We think we're going to get a look at sort of the full expression of this offense with everybody healthy. That's pretty exciting. Elijah Mitchell returning from injury this week. That's interesting as well. Not that we think he's going to have a big role. This is pretty much going to be the CMC show. But Mitchell returning from injury as at least the backup to McCaffrey, moderately interesting. Tank, what are you interested in here?
Oh, man. Well, it doesn't get any easy for the Los Angeles Chargers. I mean, I feel like I just need to read this off. The San Francisco 49ers defense, 24th QB fantasy points. They're 24th tight end fantasy points, 32nd, so they're the best team against running backs. And so when you look at it from the Chargers offensive standpoint, you don't have Mike Williams, you don't have Keenan Allen. You think that maybe he can lean on Everett, but that's going to be a tough matchup for him. We have to imagine that Eckler is going to be involved some way, somehow. Probably not going to be able to run the ball because a lot of times they can't run the ball against teams that give up a lot of rush yards. So he's going to have to be involved in the pass game. So what did Matt say? It's going to probably be a lot of dink and dunk to Eckler and to Palmer and to Carter and guys like that. And so, I mean, I don't really see a lot of explosiveness in this game. I don't really see the Chargers scoring a lot of points, even though I need them to, because my fantasy roster is littered with a bunch of Chargers. So I think I'm just end up being really depressed watching this game.
Yeah, a couple months ago, this looked really friendly, right? This looked really fun. Yeah. And now we're talking about reception totals for DeAndre Carter and Josh Palmer. That is, in fact, a tough scene. Okay, Tank, let's keep it rolling with the ballers on a budget.
Oh, let's do that. So, what it do, baby? It's your boy T Money coming with my what is it, week 10? Ballers on the budget. Now, first I'm starting off with quarterback Russell Wilson. He's at Tennessee. He's $24. Now, if this isn't a week that you can plug in Mr. Unlimited to start cooking in the kitchen, I really don't know what it is. Now, I understand that those Titans, they gave up a bunch of yards to my man Patrick Mahomes last week, but he threw a lot of passes. But this is what I think is intriguing with this matchup. No Jeffrey Simmons, no Bud Dupree, no Zach Cunningham, no Amani Hooker. So I look at, this is a golden matchup for Russ coming off a bye to get that offense back on track, especially the pass game. So Jerry Jeudy, Courtland Sutton, these are guys that you probably been having stashed. You need to roll them out now, because if it don't happen this week, it probably ain't gonna happen anytime soon. Now at running back, I'm going with DeAndre Swift. They're going to Chi-Town. He's $18. And the thing I liked about it is this: we know that this dude is a stud. Everyone was banking on him being like one of the top fantasy producing running backs in the league this year. But he had limited practices, missed practices last week. This week he had limited practice, full practice, and now he gets to go up against that Chicago Bears defense that a lot of people have been lighting it up with running backs. And so I think this is a play where you buy this guy low, because I'm pretty sure the Lions, after he's getting in some full practice, is going to ride him like Seabiscuit this week. Now at wide receiver, we're going with Juju Smith-Schuster versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's also $18. Now we're wondering, like, who's going to be the guy that Patrick Mahomes really focuses on at wide receiver? 25 targets, 22 receptions, 325 receiving yards, and 2 touchdowns over the past 3 weeks. Juju is that dude. We already talked about McCole Hardman not being there. We already talked about it being a friendly matchup against the Jacksonville Jaguars secondary. This is a guy that you need to plug into your lineup. They have that connection, Juju and Patrick Mahomes. Go ahead and lean into that at only $18. And that tight end, I'm going with Evan Ingram. My man Andy talked him up last week. It's kind of similar to how Harmon said he talked up MVS last week, and both of them came up dusty. But a lot of times when you see those dips, what follows is rips. And he's going against that Kansas City defense. They give up the 8th most fantasy points to tight ends. And I feel like this is going to be a really good matchup. They're going to more than likely be playing with a negative game script. Obviously, they're going to try to establish the run with Etienne. But if you have some play action, things like that, it should be a really good setup for Evan Ingram. So make sure you get him plugged in up your lineup. Very cheap and a really good matchup at $15 going against the high-scoring Kansas City Chiefs. So remember, the T is for the money, and the money, that's something that you may not have in your wallet if you do not get these guys plugged into your lineup. And also remember that you can still get in on the action in Daily Fantasy this morning on Yahoo. Our big 250,000 baller contest is open, and you can win cash prizes. First place takes home $50,000. Visit the Daily Fantasy Football lobby and join in on the fun immediately.
All right, let's jump into our fantasy face-off here. You know the deal. This is where we take one of the popular ads of the week, one of the waiver wire heroes, and put them up against some more established players on the other side. Andy, we've got Jeff Wilson today. Probably one of the most hilarious moments in Yahoo Fantasy Football, our podcast history, is when we talk about Jeff Wilson and Charles McDonald, and NFL guys like, what are we doing here? Well, unfortunately, that's how it works in fantasy football. Sometimes we got to talk about some goofy players here. So let's get it started with Jeff Wilson versus Antonio Gibson. Which one do we like better?
Oh, I've actually got a team in which I'm starting both of these guys, so you know that squad is 4-5. It's a really good spot for Wilson, right? They're facing Cleveland. That's a bottom third run defense. They give up about 4.5 yards per carry, over 120 rushing yards per game. But this is one where I think I'm actually going to lean Gibson. He's become the primary receiving option in that backfield. I think he's really leapfrogged Brian Robinson again here. Gibson's so good. He's coming off a game in which he played almost 60% of the snaps. The one thing that you can do against Philly, against Philly's defense, is actually run the ball a little bit, and that's who they've got this week. So I think Gibson puts up, it might be an empty yardage performance, but I think he gives us a pretty nice yardage total this week. So slight lean to Antonio Gibson here.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one. Like you mentioned, Philly's pass defense all the way up here, their run defense all the way down there. And Antonio Gibson has the third highest target share on the team since ODU's finest got back in there. I'm with you on the Antonio Gibson call. ODU just down the street here at this point for me now. All right, let's move on to the next one. Jeff Wilson versus James Conner. This one I think is a really challenging one, Andy. Where do you go?
Yeah, first of all, touchdown regression hit James Conner hard, right? Really hard. Yeah. He's not going to finish with 18 this season. And man, he's so touchdown dependent. And this year, only one rushing score. It's tough sledding this week. First of all, he's got the quarterback problem, right? We don't think Kyler Murray is going to be able to go. Secondly, he's got an opponent problem. He's facing the Rams. The Rams are the number 4 run defense in the league. I thought Conner looked fine last week. I thought he looked like his old self. But he doesn't have 20 touches in any game, so it's not like he has some huge edge in terms of workload. I would go Wilson here, a much friendlier matchup.
Much friendlier matchup, and I do think that Browns-Dolphins game could be really, really fun for fantasy. 2 efficient offenses, 2 questionable defenses. I'm with you on this one as well, where I'm going Jeff Wilson. All right, last one up here. We've got Jeff Wilson versus Devin Singletary. Plenty of questions for Devin Singletary. We know there's a quarterback question again for this one, although it sounds like Josh Allen's going to start and play in this game. Who knows? We still don't know that at this point, but Devin Singletary, obviously, Nyheim Hines on the team as well, Andy. So again, a lot of questions there for Singletary. Which AFC East back are you going with?
Yeah, I might appreciate some clarity on the Josh Allen situation because, one of Singletary's problems, obviously, is the fact that Allen is such a factor when they get anywhere near the goal line. Allen has all the rushing touchdowns, so that is a worry. Singletary, he's been playing most of the snaps, right? He's generally around 75% of the snaps, so it doesn't even matter to me if it's Nyheim Hines, if it's James Cook, whoever it is. We think that Singletary is going to be good to go, but I really don't like his chances of finding the end zone in this one. So this is another case where I would lean Jeff Wilson.
Yep, I think I'm with you on this one as well. And just to address the whole committee part of it in Miami, it was pretty much an even split between Mostert and Wilson. So, I still like Mostert as well. I'm not totally off on him. It's just I think Jeff Wilson's going to have this slight lean there. So I think this is at least the last 2. We're both on Jeff Wilson on that one. But we agree on every single one of these debates, Andy, which cannot be a good sign for anything we just said.
No, that is not how you generally want these things to go. You know that if we're in complete agreement, that you should fade all of these selections. All right, let's get to the people's questions. Let's help the people out a little bit here. Do a little play calling, and we're going to start with Jameel. Jameel is asking. Jameel used the hashtag AskFFL. Darnell Mooney or Courtland Sutton. Tank, I'm going to start with you on this one. You're going with Justin Fields, number 1 receiver.
Fly me to the moon, and I'll tell you why later. There's going to be a bunch more in store, so hey, stay tuned.
I love that call. Yeah, that's definitely Mooney for me as well. Money Shark has our next question. Money Shark is asking, Rondale Moore, again, probably no Kyler Murray today, George Pickens or Antonio Gibson in PPR. Harmon, for me, this one would come down to Pickens or Gibson. Who do you like?
Yeah, these are the real questions, right? When it's like 3 guys I don't really feel that confident in. Yeah, I agree that Rondale Moore is 3rd on the list here. And George Pickens, it could certainly get more interesting for George Pickens without Chase Claypool, but volume hasn't really been the problem so far in the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. It's just the Pittsburgh Steelers offense is the problem because they run a high school offense there with Matt Canada, worst designed offense in the entire NFL. So I definitely think that Pickens has a really high ceiling in his range of outcomes, but if this is a PPR format, we just talked about the volume that Antonio Gibson's been getting through the air with Taylor Heineke. I feel a little bit more confident just going with the floor for Antonio Gibson there.
Yeah, that's a good call. I think I agree with that. Let's take another question here. This one is from Release the Kraken. It's pretty dangerous. A Kraken is a dangerous beast. It's full PPR league. Wow, this is a collection of talent right here. Tony Pollard, Miles Sanders, or Juju Smith-Schuster. I'll take this one. I don't really want to bench any of these guys. This must be. Hopefully, this is like a 6-team, 8-team league. This is crazy. I think I'm going to start Tony Pollard from this group, though. Again, I like them all. There's a real chance that Juju catches like 8 balls in this thing, so I think he's a good start in PPR. But Tony Pollard gets the Green Bay defense, and that defense is allowing almost 5 yards per carry on the season. They have been extremely friendly to opposing rushers. Pollard, of course, this week, probably going to take the lead role with Zeke Elliott still dealing with that bone bruise in his knee. It's a great spot for him. We saw what he could do not that long ago against Chicago, right? You give him a full workload, and he absolutely blows up. So for me, this one is Pollard, but I don't hate any of the options. Let's take one more here. This is from Stacy. Stacy is asking, oh, gee, I don't know what to tell you about Josh Allen. It's Dak Prescott or Josh Allen. Would anybody here, I'll send this to you, Matt, would anybody here actually start Josh Allen over Dak?
Yeah, look, Tank's like, oh, great. pass this one off to me. Hey, but seriously, though, Stacy, all of my good teams, literally every single one of my good fantasy teams has Josh Allen, and I've just defaulted to if Josh Allen is playing him, if Josh Allen's playing, I'm playing him. Elena Gettysburg, who covers the team, I saw she tweeted out that Josh Allen was taking snaps from the starting center. Mitch Morris, Case Keenum was taking snaps from the backup center, so that feels pretty good. Shout out to producer Dan, what a superstar over there. He just sent me a tweet that Bills quarterback Josh Allen took the first snap in 11-on-11 with the first team offense, so it looks like we are going to get Josh Allen. Stacy, I'm going down with the ship. You can tail me on this one. Like, if you have Patrick Mahomes or Jalen Hurts, I think you get away with benching Josh Allen. I don't think Dak is quite in that group.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I'd go Josh Allen. And it is time for our next break because I need to re-rank to account for Josh Allen. I need to get him into some lineups too. So, still ahead, Ariel Epstein is back in the book with her primetime props. Don't go away.
You want your sports news in more than just a few characters? With the help of a bunch of different characters?
You play better than me, I respect the shit like you.
He beat us, yes. I'm not a ball player. Prince had hops.
Hosted by everyone's favorite character.
Only time will tell if that's a lie or a big-ass lie.
You're Calais Campbell's brother, so Calais got the most sacks that he has is on me.
Give us 2 minutes and we'll give you The Rush. Weekday mornings on Yahoo Sports.
Welcome to Mad Bets, everyone. I am Minty Bets alongside Jared Quay, Pam Maldonado. I'm Ariel Epstein.
We've got a big Sunday night football game.
It's time for some Monday night football. Jared, let's kick things off with you. What's your best bet this week?
Oh, I love my bet with 5-star confidence.
Ariel, you can call it a homer pick if you want. It's not.
By the way, that probably will be in Prop Queen coming up on Sunday.
I'm gonna be busting these babies out this weekend.
Woo! You did that with your winning bets, huh? You've been on fire. That's what you're buying with your winnings?
Oh man, I love it.
All right, we are back here on Fantasy Football Live. In case you missed it, here are some injuries we're monitoring in Week 10. Back to Josh Allen. He is officially active this morning at home against the Vikings. Did not practice this week with the elbow injury, but he is expected to start. We think that's really happening, so you got to roll with him. Matthew Stafford, still questionable for today's matchup with Arizona. He's got a concussion, could still clear protocols ahead of this afternoon's game, but John Wolford has reportedly been preparing as the team's QB1 this week. In the same game, Kyler Murray expected to sit with a hamstring injury per NFL Network's Ian Rappaport. The Cardinals are calling him a game-time decision. Colt McCoy is in line for the start in that one. Also in the late games, Ezekiel Elliott. We've been talking about him. He's still questionable with a knee injury. He could be held out. Seems to make sense. They're going to take a look at that injury pregame just to make sure he's either good to go or not good to go. All right, it is time for a little believe or make believe. This is the segment where we discuss the narrative surrounding a buzzy player or two. I'm going to get us started here with Chris Olave. I know I teased this earlier at the top of the show. He's been the air yards king this season. We talk about it all the time. Leads the position in air yards, ridiculous totals. That, of course, means, you know, he's getting a lot of opportunities. He's getting high yield opportunities. Hasn't really had a blow-up game yet, but it's coming. He's given us a couple of triple-digit yardage performances. He has a couple of touchdowns on the season. Finally, this week, he gets that Steelers defense. The Steelers defense on the season giving up the most fantasy points to opposing wideouts. They have been particularly generous. They are among the most generous defenses in terms of passing yardage on the season. I think Olave has an absolute blow-up performance in this one. I think this is really where he hits the national radar. I'm talking 140, maybe 150 receiving yards in this thing. Not just one. I'm going to give him 2 touchdowns here. I think Olave absolutely blows up here. Tank, what are you believing or not believing in?
Well, I have to say that you influenced me. You know, we have this little working doc that we have when we're preparing for the show, and you were saying that, oh man, Chris Olave is about to blow up, and I looked and I was like, shoot, Darnell Mooney about to blow up too. Like, this is a guy that's been trending in the right direction over the past few weeks. I mean, he's had 31 targets, 22 receptions, 184 yards, and a touchdown in the last 4 weeks. But what you really like about it is this: Justin Fields is playing some of the best football that he has in his 2-year career. I don't know why the hell I thought this dude, I don't know, I was tripping. But maybe it was because, you know, I'm leading Matt Harmon right now. I just go ahead and throw that in, even though we're like 2 blocks later, it doesn't matter. But listen, he has a Detroit defense who gives up the 4th most wide receiver points. And then you also have the next week, the Atlanta defense that gives up the 2nd most fantasy points to wide receivers. If my man Darnell Mooney isn't going to blow up in these next couple of weeks, it's not going to happen. I think it does happen. Make sure you get ready for the fireworks. Rev, whatever numbers you threw out there for Chris Olave, I'm going to go ahead and put the smack down. My man Mooney going to do the same damn thing. Let's get the party jumping.
Oh, I love that call. I need it. I absolutely need it. A couple of really friendly matchups for Mooney coming up, as you mentioned. Also gets the Lions again in Week 17 when we need him most. All right, that's it for Believe or Make Believe. Let's send it over to Matt in the sportsbook with the prop queen, Ariel.
Yes, I might look like I'm in some sort of institution or, you know, some sort of low-grade prison, but in reality, in a feeling sense, I'm with my pal Ariel Epstein in the sportsbook. Ariel, welcome back to the show. Let's go over your primetime props. Like we talked about earlier, this Sunday Night Football game, there's a litany of 49ers who could have big games. Why don't you get us started here with George Kittle and how he looks like for you?
49ers tight end George Kittle to go over 41.5 receiving yards. Great matchup for Kittle, who, by the way, has gone over this number in 2 of his last 3 games. He's got a good matchup against the Chargers, who allow the 8th most receiving yards per game to tight ends. Even some of the best tight ends that have faced this team, like a Travis Kelce, he had 51, Darren Waller 79, and David Njoku 88. Kittle's up there in one of the best tight ends in the league. He should be able to go over this number with no problem.
I don't think you'll have to sell our viewers on a big week for Christian McCaffrey, but Ariel, why don't you do it anyways?
I still like for McCaffrey to go over his rushing yards prop. I'm seeing it go up from 79.5 to 80.5. Another great matchup considering McCaffrey hasn't even faced a bad run defense like this all season. Whether it was with Carolina, whether it's with San Francisco, the Chargers allow the 2nd most rushing yards to running backs. This is the worst run defense McCaffrey has seen. I know there may be some concern because the 49ers are bringing back up their running back Elijah Mitchell. Come on. If the 49ers are that dumb that they're going to put Mitchell in front of McCaffrey, then I will never bet this team again. I like for the 49ers to win the game. They should dominate in the run game, and they should dominate with their newest addition, Christian McCaffrey at running back.
Yeah, it shouldn't be too big of an ask for Christian McCaffrey to dominate one of the worst run defenses in the NFL. So really like that call from you there. What do you got for Monday night, Ariel?
Monday Night Football, it was taking too long for the book to even give us some props. Finally woke up 7 a.m. this morning here on the East Coast and saw numbers out. The one that stood out the most to me was the Eagles quarterback Jalen Hurts and his rushing yards. I'm going to take the under 39.5 rush yards for Hurts. Why should he run? He doesn't need to. This team is 11.5-point favorites over Washington, a team in the Commanders that, by the way, doesn't even allow for that many rushing yards to quarterbacks. They're actually one of the top 10 in the league in regards to limiting quarterbacks on the ground game. Hurts isn't gonna need to run. He's been a double-digit favorite the last 2 weeks and didn't have more than 23 rushing yards in either of those games. Same thing's gonna happen against Washington, under 39.5 rush yards for Hurts.
Yeah, I like the way that all ties in together with the fact that, Philly should be able to control this game with Miles Sanders. They can easily just get over on Washington through the air. I agree. Hurts probably won't have to do that much as a rusher. And 39.5 is pretty big line there. So, Ariel, I know you love this term. Why don't you give us your lock of the week?
Yeah, I really love it. I hate when you guys make me use this word each week. However, I'll give you the lock.
Not you guys, not me.
That's true. It's usually Andy. I'll take the points with the Houston Texans. Texans at +5.5. This number is a fishy line. The Giants opened as a 6.5-point favorite, and the line moved in favor of the Texans by 2 points. It went from 5.5, I said, now it's 4.5. The line continues to move in favor of Houston. Now, this has to be because of the run game. The Giants, they're top 10 against the pass, but bottom 10 against the run. The Texans run the ball really well with their running back, Dameon Pierce, who, by the way, another prop I like today is the over 81.5 rushing yards. Pierce has rushed for at least 90 yards in 4 of his last 5 games, and now he's going to get a bad run defense. What can the Texans do? They run the football, which helps you with time of possession, and that keeps the ball out of the Giants' hands. I know the Giants have Saquon Barkley at running back, and the Texans are terrible against the running backs this year. However, I still trust that the Texans can do just enough to keep this game close by running the clock out and keeping the ball in Dameon Pierce's hands.
All right, you heard it here. That's Ariel's lock of the week, but only because Andy made her say it. You people out there, go get in on that. New users at BetMGM can take advantage of a special offer this Sunday. Bet $10 on any game. Yes, any game. And you can win $200. Sign up today at BetMGM.com/YahooVIP.
Another week, another insult from the sports book. I'm a professional, though. I can handle it. I can look past it. No big deal. It is make or pick
make sure you wear your bullet. You got to wear your bulletproof vest, Rev. They coming at you from the sports book.
How about it? How about it? Always. Every time I'm not in there, the disrespect is whatever. I'm over it. I'm a pro. This is a segment where we assist the people with some of their messiest sit-start decisions. I'm here with Tank, obviously. Let's see what the folks are asking. We're going to start with Eric. Eric's got a question here. Curtis Samuel, Adam Thielen, Darnell Mooney, Wan'Dale Robinson needs 2.5 PPR. Tank, I know that you're going with Mooney. Who's your other option?
I think my other option is one of Harmon's boys. I got to go with Curtis Samuel. You look at both of Curtis Samuel and Adam Thielen, they have similar matchups, and I really like the way that Curtis Samuel just continues to get peppered by no matter who the quarterback is for the Washington Commanders team. So those are my two. You are with me or you're not?
Yeah, that's a good call. Love to see you extending the olive branch to Harmon there, by the way. That's great. Another hard
only lift them up just to smack them back down.
Let's take another one here from Jamie. Jamie is asking, the following 5 wide receivers need to start 2. Some of these names are good. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Chris Olave, Christian Kirk, Michael Pittman Jr., and Cortland Sutton. All right, for me, I'm going Chris Olave. We talked about it earlier. We've talked about him a couple times. He's just got the friendliest matchup on the board. He's been the air yards king on the season. I think he's going to have a huge day. My other play here is going to be Amon-Ra St. Brown against the Bears. Obviously, that Bears defense hadn't been that good, and they've deliberately gotten worse over the last couple of weeks. No Quinn, no Roquan, so a very friendly spot for Amon-Ra St. Brown. It's close for me with Kirk, but I'm going to go with those first 2. Agree? Great.
Yeah, I'm locked up with you. Yeah.
Yeah, let's.
The only thing I was going to say is that.
Yeah, go ahead.
The only thing I wanted to say was that I just appreciate Amon-Ra St. Brown hating on Harmon last week so I can go undefeated. So thank you, dog. Love you. Sun God.
Oh, too good, too good. Yeah, he did, man. He let me down as well. Okay, our next one here is from Fantasy FB4878. They say they need to start 2 of 4 in a PPR. It's Darnell Mooney. I'm going to assume Tank is going to play Mooney, Jeff Wilson, Zay Jones, or Deontay Johnson. I'm going to go ahead and eliminate Zay Jones from this one, although it might not be the messiest matchup against Kansas City. For me, this is between Jeff Wilson and Deontay. Who are you going with, Tank?
You want to know a fun fact that you'll probably find crazy until you hear it? Like, Deontay Johnson hasn't scored a touchdown yet this year. I mean, this is one dude that we used to just getting a ton of volume and stuff like that, but it just hasn't materialized. And then you get Jeff Wilson, who goes to a new team, and like that same week he ends up balling out and scoring the touchdown. So I think I got to roll with J-Dub, along with Mooney.
Yeah, I'm going the same direction there. Really amazing that Jeff Wilson just shows up in Miami after the deadline, already playing half the snaps. Looked great, obviously comfortable with the offense. So I agree with you. For me, that is Mooney and Jeff Wilson. All right, let's send it now to Harmon for some last-minute sleepers.
Oh, man, I am so far in Tank Williams' head. He brings me up like 5 times in this segment I'm not even participating in. But I'm not going to talk about that because I'm here for you people, all right? I'm here to help you. I'm here to focus on what matters. Some last-minute sleepers for me this week. Let's get it started with a rookie wide receiver, Wan'Dale Robinson. In his last 3 games with the Giants, he has an 18% target share. That is tied with Darius Slayton for the top 2 receiver spots on the team. I know we're getting Kenny Golladay back this week, but, yeah, I mean, come on. Well, come on, we'll see about that. Wan'Dale Robinson, I think, is a great post-buy rookie bump candidate right now. You know, going back and charting him, this is a guy who I don't think is just a fake receiver. You know, I put myself in a little bit of a brain pretzel comparing Wan'Dale Robinson to Rondale Moore. That's going to be tough to say the rest of the way. Oh, man, there's another rhyme. I'm on fire this morning. But I think Wan'Dale Robinson shows the ability to win on post routes, on dig routes, get down the field just a little bit. And, man, this guy might be small, but he is tough in contested situations. So if you need a deeper flex play at wide receiver, I really like Wan'Dale Robinson. I was prepared to talk about this next quarterback as a Josh Allen replacement. Thank God we don't have to do that. But if you are streaming quarterbacks, I think Jacoby Brissett makes for an interesting guy here in a, sneaky revenge game against the Miami Dolphins. I mean, listen, a veteran quarterback like Jacoby Brissett, he played for a bunch of teams, whatever. But seriously, has played for the Dolphins before, so minor revenge game here. The Dolphins are 28th in drop back success rate allowed. They're typically a real cover 1 heavy team, man coverage and get a lot of pressure on you up front. They haven't really been doing that because they haven't necessarily gotten a ton of pressure with their front 4 this entire year. Of course, that's why they go out and trade for Bradley Chubb. But again, this is just a defense that right now you're having Xavier Howard play a lot of zone coverage. That's not typically what we've seen from him. So just hasn't totally coalesced there on defense. We know that the Browns offense has been pretty good this year. Jacoby Brissett himself is 12th in terms of EPA per dropback. So he's been efficient. I like him as a low-end quarterback streamer here in this matchup. Again, luckily we don't have to play him in favor of Josh Allen at this point, but nevertheless, if you're streaming, I do like Jacoby Brissett. Let's talk about some real high-end players, and to do that, we'll take a look at Eckler's Edge this week, where we reviewed the top 12 running backs in fantasy football with someone that you might have heard of, somebody that might be hosting the show, and it's not me as a running back 1 spot.
Your boy holding the top spot. I'll try to do that as long as I can. Try to, I was number 2 last year, so I still want to, get that number 1 spot. It's one of my
there you go.
One of my side quests, I guess, along my journey of trying to win, a championship with the Chargers. But yeah, all these other guys, I mean, I'm expecting to see these guys pop off up here. There's some other guys that aren't on this list, but I think it's mainly because of injuries. I think, Jonathan Taylor would have been another guy up here. But getting down to Ramondre, this is his 2nd year, man. He has really come alive, man, for that squad over there. Moving down the list, we got Josh Jacobs. Shout out to that guy, man.
Yeah.
He said, what, Raiders? You're not going to pick up my 5th year? Now it's personal. Now look at him. Now he's blowing through all these tackles. He's, in like top 5 or something like that in rushing yards. Man's making an impact over there. Just the team in general. I'm just like, how? I don't get how their record is what it is.
I mean, I saw a stat that's like in the entire history of the Raiders,
they've blown a 17-plus lead 5 times in the entire history. This year, it's three times.
Oh.
Fournette is the interesting one here that, like, from an efficiency standpoint, it's not been there on the ground. 3.3 yards per carry for Leonard Fournette, but 42 catches. Like, when you're playing with Tom Brady, you get those little dump offs at the running back position. You're gonna put up fantasy numbers.
Yeah, that reminds me of playing back with Philip Rivers, right? Where it's like, hey, if no one's open, I'm throwing the ball to you. So like, get ready, right? And then you get opportunities, right? Especially down in the red zone where you can convert some of those into touchdowns. It's exciting. It's exciting to see some young guys come in and compete for some of these spots.
All right, we're just moments away from kickoff, so let's get to as many social media questions as we possibly can. We're going to start with Paul. Paul is asking, it's a half PPR league. Brandon Ayuk, Darnell Mooney, another Mooney question, or Jeff Wilson at the flex, can only play one. We've heard enough Mooney hype from Tank, so I'm going to send this one to you, Matt. Who are you going with here?
Yeah, and that'll be about enough of the Darnell Mooney hype. You're not playing him over a guy like Brandon Ayuk in a bet. You guys are all drunk on the Justin Fields stuff, which, Andy, go ahead and drink up, pal. You've earned this, okay? So that's fine, but still, better offensive ecosystem in San Francisco. Like the matchup a lot. The Chargers don't have anything figured out in the secondary. Obviously, J.C. Jackson out for the year and wasn't playing that well to begin with. So Brandon Ayuk is the clear-cut guy for me between these three options at the flex spot.
I've got no real argument there. I would probably play Ayuk as well. Hot Stove Steve is our next question here. Hot Stove this is a wild one. Taysom Hill, Kirk Cousins, or Ryan Tannehill for the flex position. I got a question, Steve, for even including Taysom in this one. But Tank, which way you going here?
All right, so we got Taysom where he's not going to start at quarterback. He may come in and vote. I mean, honestly, this could be the thing where I try to laugh at Taysom Hill and he ends up scoring like 30 fantasy points, like throwing a touchdown, catching one, and something crazy like that. But I will say, if you're trying to decide between those three guys, I wouldn't include Taysom. And so then you got Ryan Tannehill, who has a bum ankle. He's going to play today. Or you have Kirk Cousins going against that Buffalo defense that has been a little friendly to opposing teams lately, even though I think they're going to play extra stingy this week. But I'll still go with Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, I would go with Kirk Cousins here as well. I get why they're asking the question, right? They're a little bit worried about Buffalo, but come on. He's the guy who gets to throw Justin Jefferson. That is a pretty good way to make a living. Our next question here, it's Billy. Billy is asking George Pickens, Courtland Sutton, or Michael Pittman for the flex. I don't think I can roll with Michael Pittman here. I think he's probably the best player involved in this question, but he's also the guy who's tied to Sam Ehlinger. I don't want to mess around with that. I also don't really want to mess around with Courtland Sutton, so I am actually going to go with George Pickens in this one. I get it. He's a rookie. It's Kenny Pickett. I think there's a lot of points and yards available in that game, and I think we're going to see Pickens targeted pretty heavily in this. Remember, no Chase Claypool. That frees up like 7 targets a game. Some of those, not all of them, some of them are going to come to Pickens. I think he's a good play here. Matt is asking our next question, and Matt wants to know Aaron Jones or Jonathan Taylor. Matt, you're an Aaron Jones apologist. Who do you like here?
Yeah, I'll help a fellow Matt out here. And an Ash Ketchum avatar there too. So a lot of synergy here between us. Matt, shout out to you. I'm going to go Jonathan Taylor here though. Aaron Jones obviously a little bit banged up. Going against the Cowboys defense, Cowboys definitely better pass rush unit overall than like a run stop unit. But nevertheless, man, I just feel as if Jonathan Taylor's got such a good spot against that Raiders defense. I'm talking myself out of it now as I'm saying it, Matt. So I know we got 2 minutes here before these games start. That whatever. Like I feel like this is very close. I'm probably gonna go Jonathan Taylor, but I'm feeling worse and worse about it the more I say it.
Yeah, I just have no doubt that Jeff Saturday is going to step in and want to run the ball like 40 times in this thing. So I hear you, Jonathan Taylor. There's going to be plenty of workload there. Let's take another one here. It's Felix. Felix is asking, the Broncos defense or the Rams defense? Gosh, if only we had a former NFL defense player on the panel here that could answer this question. Tank, who do you like?
I'll take this one.
Colt McCoy.
Yeah.
I want some of that. I want some of that. Yeah.
I'm going the same way. I would definitely go the Rams there. All right. That is going to do it for this edition of Fantasy Football Live. Thank you so much for kicking off your Sunday with us. Remember to check back in here every week at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, and keep up with the latest analysis, daily content, our podcast, and of course, updated player rankings at Yahoo Fantasy. Good luck to all your squads this week. We'll see you next time.